you first called it MobilityWOD, and now it's the ready state. And I thought about it a lot. I think it shows a lot about philosophy of movement, because I think MobilityWOD was like, okay, we have to do mobility as a workout, it's additional, and now the ready state, for me, it's like, okay, it's like being human, being ready. So how does your philosophy of movement change in the last years? Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, and you're right, because I've come out of a tradition of high intensity functional movement training, barbells, kettlebells, dumbbells, gymnastics, running. I was a professional athlete, but I have always believed, specifically, I have my own feelings about the best way to train and be ready as a human, right? I have my own style. I have things the way I coach and teach. But I believe the most that coaches know their community the best. So if you are teaching people, I believe that you know how to get your athletes ready to run, or ready to swim, or ready to bike, or climb, or ski, or just generally fit. You know what your population needs, you know the nuances, you know your community. And in the heart of that means that I can be agnostic, I can be independent about the way you think you train, which gives me and gives you a lot of personality, and it's maybe not the right word, but a lot of possibility to have favorites, to have styles, to play a certain way, or to adopt a certain mode of training that speaks to you and is motivating to you, that translates well. And we can always have an intellectual conversation about, does this mode of training prepare us the best for this task, right? We can argue about that. But once you begin to see, you'll see that all of these systems have universal overlapping touch points where, the hip is doing this. You have to breathe and be stable. Can you control your body with these joint ranges of motion? Are you exposing the tissues to this systematic loading? Is it a complete practice? And when you start to see it that way, what you begin to realize is, well, all roads lead to Rome. But the most important thing is to realize that the gym was never the goal. To spend more time in the gym was a mistake. The goal was to spend the least amount of time in the gym, so that we could then go into the world and be interesting, to play, to interact, to be robust, to be stable. And for a minute, I think in training, we got very excited about the gym because it's easy to track things. It's easy to see progress. And now we realize, because we haven't been in the gym, how important the community is of the gym. Being able to see people, being able to be recognized, to be seen, to be coached, to be touched, to practice. But, the heart of the ready state idea is, I believe that you know what you want to achieve and accomplish. So your goals are my goals. And that's the only goal that matters. Giving context, giving meaning to the reason people train. And that's the same way, like if you're coached your whole life, you appreciate that people maybe come to the gym because they're afraid of being hurt. So they get a little stronger, they become a little bit more durable. Maybe they want to look good naked, right? They just want to look good in a swimsuit, right? So, you have your Schwimmhosen on and you want to look better in it. That's good enough for me. You had a blood test that showed you that you weren't very healthy. So we appreciate that a lot of people come to the gym. They come because their friends are there, right? And it's a social place. All those reasons are valid, and they're all good reasons, but it doesn't change what we do underneath. Can you do what a human being is supposed to be able to do? And what we haven't done, and what I'm trying to do during this summit, is begin to help us see these. Doesn't matter what style of training, you're an animal flow dancer, great, that's great. Are you exposing the body to all of these shapes? Then we can argue about, well, you probably need some more conditioning, or you probably need to pick something up a little bit heavier once in a while. But ultimately, I want to start to begin to say, hey, we have not done a good job of looking at minimums. What are people supposed to be able to do? And then when we appreciate that, then we can use any system of training as a diagnostic tool. so that we aren't surprised when someone's missing ankle range of motion blows up in their face and they compensate and they lose power, they lose speed. Because what they'll say is, well, I've been doing this. I've been doing CrossFit. I've been doing, Perform Better. I've been doing Mike Boyle stuff. But why did this happen? Well, it's because we never took the next step of using that as the diagnostic tool to find out how far away from baseline normal, typical, typish, right? This is the goal. So that's really what we're trying to do in the ready state, is say, hey, look, we appreciate that you have a style and a way you like to train and a philosophy, and that's great. How can we help?
Okay, so you won't describe you as you are CrossFit and doing it for CrossFitters, you're doing it for everyone. Yeah.
Very much so. And, I am very fortunate that I get to work in so many sports and across so many different platforms, from Exos to Perform Better, to the CrossFit community, to track and field, to cycling. And so I have to let go of this is only about doing better on the WOD. And, the name MobilityWOD is interesting because when I started the MobilityWOD, the Mobility Project was 10 years old this September, 10 years. Mm-hmm. The iPhone didn't have a video camera. YouTube was barely a thing. There was no Gmail. It's a long time ago. And I'll say that no one was using the word mobility. It wasn't a word that was used. You used stretching. It was dynamic warm-up, right? It was flexibility, but no one used the word mobility. So I specifically chose the word mobility and defined it as you need to know how to move beautifully. You need to have the wiring to generate the most force and to be in the best positions and have the most choice. And you also have to have the range of motion to do that. Because what we know is sometimes just moving more doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't. It doesn't solve the problem. What we see is that people just get really good at moving around a problem. And then that leads us into a whole bunch of, interesting issues where we don't have full access to our position, so we compensate. We don't have a way of managing pain. We think that pain is a medical problem. Pain is not a medical problem. Pain is just information about movement, information about your readiness to move, information about how your brain is thinking about your tissues or thinking about threat, right? That's all pain is, right? Or we've lost the opportunity to enhance and improve our ability to adapt and recover from hard training. And so what we start to see is when we give people those tools, again, what we start to see is that people have less pain, they move better, they can generate more wattage, they win more world championships, they go to the world records, right? They go to the Olympics, they are durable to 100 years old, and more importantly, they can play more, they can explore more. And I think what's happened, and we've seen with the shelter in place, how did we do as a community? How well did we prepare people to take care of themselves? So if this was a test for strength and conditioning, for fitness, where we were like, okay, we're going to cut off, hands off, good luck, go ahead and let me know how you are able to cook, sleep, move, warm up, right? Stretch, mobilize, deal with pain, self-soothe. Can you do all of those things? And if people weren't set up to do that and have been working with us, then we failed. So I think it's, the goal here is to make people more independent and more robust. And I believe in my heart of hearts that strength and conditioning, movement training, fitness is the powerful way in to solve so many of these problems in society.